All right, week 9 college football breakdown here. Thursday night battle in the Pac-12. We got Utah traveling to Pullman, Washington, and taking on the Cougars of Washington State. Seeing the Utes on the road is a 7.5-point favorite here, and a pretty standard total, actually a dead standard total at 55.5. Obviously, last time we saw Utah was in that thrilling comeback win at home against USC. They're coming off a bye. Both these teams are actually coming off a bye. But that was really Utah's first big win of the season. They had lost the season opener at Florida. They had lost that game just the week before at UCLA in pretty loud fashion. What are the two common themes between those two losses? They're both on the road. I know that's an easy thing to point out. It's hard to win on the road in college football, is what I'm trying to get at here. So you got another tough road test here, Thursday night game. This is not exactly the role I would love Utah in. We've seen them be pretty effective at home this year. I mean, they blew out Oregon State. They really took care of teams like San Diego State and teams like that. But this has not been the role that Utah has been, as trustworthy in as when they're at home. I'm going to get to the good parts of Utah in a second. They've regressed in certain areas this year, and their run game has regressed. And it's surprising to me. Tavion Thomas a year ago was an 1,000-yard rusher, was 5.6 yards per carry, very efficient, and it was a huge part of why Utah went on to win the Pac-12. Well, this year, he's at 4.5 yards per carry. Micah Bernard is certainly not going to provide any more explosiveness than a guy like Tavion Thomas. That signals that the Utes aren't as strong in the run blocking category. And it's really, you're talking about a full yard per carry. We're over halfway into the season than where this team was a year ago with the same running back room, same quarterback. Really, everything has remained the same except parts of that O-line. It's had an effect on this offense. And we'll flip it over to the other side of the ball. This Utah team has not been as dominant up front. It was only really in that game against USC where they were finally able to get some pressure on an opposing quarterback. They have not been some lethal team up front really on either side of the ball this year. And I think that's something that we all expect with the Utah team. We saw signs of it against USC, but it just hasn't been a consistent facet of their game this year. Quite frankly, though, I do like the way Utah matches up with Washington State. Washington State's an air raid offense. We know that. Cam Ward is a guy that's adjusted pretty well to the FBS level. He tore it up at Incarnate Word at the FCS level in past seasons, but 7.1 yards per attempt, 63% completion. Air raid offenses are very easy to prepare for. You're going to get the ball out quick. And, the issue with air raid offenses is it's hard to sustain those 12, 13, 14 play drives when you don't take vertical shots. So I know Washington State has had success against teams like Oregon. They were able to win on the road at Wisconsin earlier in the season, but their offense has started to come back down to earth these past few weeks. Put up just 14 points at USC, and we know USC's defense is not all that good still. And then just 10 points at Oregon State the very next week. This is a game where I do expect Utah to have success defensively because I do still feel good about that secondary and even those guys on the second level in the passing game. That's really the only thing that you got to worry about when going up against an air raid offense like this. Utah's run game has certainly regressed this year, like I said, but Cam Rising has definitely gotten better. Last year, even when they won the Pac-12, he was much more of a game manager. He's approaching 9 yards per attempt this year. We saw the valiant performance that Dalton Kincaid had in that game against USC, 15 catches, 217 yards. Rising has got a lot of continuity with his wide receivers and tight ends. Washington State's defense has held up pretty well this year, but this is a major step up in competition. You're not playing Wisconsin. You're not playing even Oregon State. You're playing a team that can beat you through the air. Saw the kind of day that Oregon had against this Washington State defense. I'm not comparing the style of Oregon and Utah. I think they're equally as efficient, though. I think Cam Rising can absolutely tear apart this Washington State secondary. And ultimately, if you couldn't tell, I do lean pretty heavily towards the Utes in this one. I think Utah is much more likely to win this game by 20 than they are to lose. This is just not really a game coming off a bye that I expect Utah to flounder in. Don't know if I'm going to get to the window with it, but it's certainly a strong lean at this point. I think this total is about right. It's not going to be a very fast-paced game. Unlike some air raid teams like Mississippi State, Texas Tech, Washington State actually does not go very fast offensively. Utah is certainly a team that doesn't really like to speed things up either. I would lean towards the under. The only thing that's keeping me off that is I do think Utah can create explosive plays through the air in this game. If they are able to get up early in this game, then you might see Washington State start to get more aggressive. So lean under. Much stronger lean in this game would be towards the Utes. Ultimately, though, with this game being on the road, giving me some pause, given how they fared on the road this year. Still, though, it's Utah or pass for me. You see this shirt. Halloween's coming up. We got the Halloween theme. Head over to proud90.com. Unique but very comfortable polos as well. With the colder weather coming, also got a great selection of hoodies and quarter zips. Proud 90 has got all your golf apparel needs. If you see anything you like at proud90.com, use code Fordham at checkout. It's going to get you 15% off your entire order. Code Fordham at checkout is going to get you 15% off your order. Support me, support Proud 90. The rest of the information will be in the description below.